Hello everyone, we are back with another tutorial for a Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes module. This time around we are looking at the module called Clumsy Loopover, which if you're familiar with the original Loopover, this is pretty much the same idea. We have a 6x6 grid of tiles that each have one of the numbers from 0 to 9 and then a letter from A to Z on it, and we can slide these tiles around and they'll sort of loop around, hence the name Loopover. And our goal is to get the grid to look like this, with the numbers 0 through 9, and then the letters A through Z in their appropriate base 36 order, just by sliding things around. Now you may have noticed, and the thing that makes this clumsy loopover instead of just regular loopover is that I cannot any longer move one column or row at a time. Every time I move a column, it moves an adjacent column with it. Right now it's consistent, so every time I hit an arrow, it also moves the column 1 to the left on this puzzle, and every time I hit a horizontal arrow, it also moves the row below it. So that is consistent among the columns and rows, although it's different from instance to instance of the module. And so where I want to start by explaining this module is actually looking at some slightly complicated moves that we will need later on in the puzzle. So I'm going to work with a completed version of the puzzle here, and I'm actually using a modified version of the module that lets me keep playing with the mod even after I have solved this particular one, so I can sort of show you what some of these moves are. And so what I've got here is, this is all stuff that was, as far as I know, well, definitely not figured out by me. I'm not sure who figured it out originally, but I learned it from a diffuser who just goes by the name of Diffuse on YouTube, and I will give you a link to some of their videos in the description. But they've given me a list of moves that they use to solve this particular puzzle, and a description of what they all do. So let's just take a quick look at this. So right here, this first move says 1, row 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. Right? So this 1 means move the first row and also the second row with it. And this B means move column B and also column C with it. And then move row 1 and 2 again, and then B and C. So you could really call this move 1 and 2, right 1, and then move B and C, up 1, but just for abbreviation, we've just listed it as 1 and B. And so what that's going to do is it's going to follow this little picture here. The first picture in this line of 6, those correspond to these 6 moves that I have written down over in the notepad here. So the first picture sort of shows this little loop going around in a circle in a clockwise direction. So let me actually do all these moves on the module, and then we'll take a look at what just happened. So 1 right 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. So let's see what happened when we did this series of moves. First off, notice most of the grid hasn't changed. 3, 4, 5, 9, A, B, and then F all the way through Z, all of these are exactly the same as they were before, right? They're in their correct positions. The only thing that moved around were things in this upper 3x3 grid, and if you'll notice, even within this grid, the C and the 7 are still where they're supposed to be. It's just the 0, 1, and 2, that then 8, E, D, 6, those have all sort of moved clockwise around this circle. Right. So that's exactly this picture that's shown in my little paint window here, that these 7 tiles moved clockwise around in a circle, and that's what this series of 4 moves right here does. And even the idea behind these moves is pretty straightforward. So, like, let's say I were looking at this, and for some reason I wanted this 6 to move a little bit to the right. Right? Well, this series of moves would do that, because it's like, okay, I want to move this 6 to the right. Great, I'll just move the 6 to the right. But now we have a problem that the 4, the A, the 5, and the B are all messed up, so I need to move them back to the left. But if I just move them back to the left directly, that, defeats the purpose of having moved this 6 to the right, which was what I wanted to do in the first place. So, what we do is, we move the 6 slightly out of the way for a second, then move the 4, 5, the A, and the B back to the left where they're supposed to be, and then we slide the 6 back down. And now I have effectively moved the 6 a little bit to the right. You know, some other stuff moved as well, but that's the general idea behind these sorts of moves. Right. So, these 6 moves are the main ones that we're going to use to solve most of this puzzle, frankly. Most of the hard parts of the puzzle, at least. And then there are a few more kind of esoteric moves that you'll probably only have to use like once at worst throughout the puzzle solving process. Right. So let me just show off these other moves. So let's see. B, the second move, is exactly the opposite of the first move. So you can see it's moving the same 7 tiles, but in a counterclockwise fashion. So let me do that a couple of times just to get back to where we were. So let's see that B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1. Notice that moved the 6 back to the left, and everything else sort of went counterclockwise with it. And then if we do that again, then bam, everything is back in place. And if I had the sound effects turned on, the module would be playing its solve noise again, because we got everything back to where it was supposed to be. So those are, we can move these 7 tiles in a loop, clockwise or counterclockwise. We can do a similar thing with another set of 7 tiles in that upper left corner, which I'll show off here. That's moves 3 and 4. So if we go 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 right 1, A down 1, now the 7 and the E have stayed in place, and we're moving the 0, 1, 2, 8, D, C, 6, and this time they went counterclockwise around, because that's move 3 goes counterclockwise. And then if we did move 4, then that would move these things clockwise again. So that's A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, A right 1, and now everything is back where it's supposed to be. And so you'll notice these 7 things, these first 4 moves, right, move different sets of 7 tiles sort of clockwise and counterclockwise. If we combine them together, then most things around the loop will sort of move clockwise once and then counterclockwise once and go right back where they started. But a couple of things along the bottom will just swap places in interesting ways. So that's moves 5 and 6. So if I do move 5 here, oops, move 5 like so, that will be 1 right 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. Then 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 right 1, A down 1. So now, most things, all but 4 things, are actually where they're supposed to be. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, those are all correct. It's only the 8 and the E have swapped places, and the C and the D have swapped places. And again, that's shown in picture number 5 over here. The spots in sort of A3 and B3 have swapped, and C2 and C3 have swapped, as drawn in the picture here. And so let me just do that again real quick to move everything back to where it's supposed to be. Then 1 left, 1, A up, 1, 1 right, 1, A down 1. So there we go. C and D, E and 8 swapped back where they're supposed to be. We can do a very similar thing with move 6 over here, which will swap 6 and C, and then D and E with each other. So that's B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. And there we go. So 6 and C have swapped places, E and D have swapped places. So of course, let me do those again to get everything back to where it's supposed to be. And there we go. We have our solved grid again. And so you might be asking, well, that's great, but those only move some very specific parts of the grid around, right? What if, say, so like I just did a move that swapped 6 and C with each other and swapped D and E with each other. Well, what if I wanted to swap 7 and D with each other and E and F with each other, right? Well, notice that's all exactly 1 square to the right of the 6 and C, D, and E, right? So instead of swapping these 4 spaces, I want to swap these 4 spaces around within each other. So I can still use these moves to do that. I can still use move number 6 to do that. I just have to do one of 2 things. Either I just take 7, D, E, and F and move them to these spots in the upper left corner, and then I do my weird sequence of moves to swap 7 and D and swap E and F, and then I just move them back after they're done. That's perfectly fine, and that will work. So let me demonstrate. That's B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. And then we move this back, so now 6 and C are where they're supposed to be. Everything is where it's supposed to be, except 7 and D, F and E have swapped places. So that's one option, right? Is take the pieces that you want to move around, just slide them over into the spots that are affected by the move that you're going to do the move, and then slide everything back. That's one perfectly reasonable option. Another perfectly reasonable option is just slightly alter the move, right? So this move, right, is designed to move columns A, B, and C. If I just shift all of the column moves one to the right, so I do this column C up 1 and then column C down 1, and then column B up 1 and column B down 1, it will do the same move, but in columns B, C, and D. So that will affect 7, D, F, and E exactly the way I want it to. All right, so let me do it that way to get 7, D, F, and E back in the places where they want to go. So let's see here. So this would now be C up 1, 1 right 1, C down 1, 1 left 1, and then B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1, 1 right 1, and ta-da. We swapped 7 and D back, we swapped E and F back, and then everything else just stayed exactly where it was. Right. So by using basically just these 6 moves, we can do a lot of the tricky stuff that we need to do in solving this particular module. And we'll see that in action in just a minute. The other thing I wanted to show, though, is there are some slightly more complicated moves that Diffuse showed me for doing some very tricky little intricate moves at the very end. So, for example, this one says cycle top 3 in left column down 1, right? So let's say I had gotten to this point, I had almost solved the module, right? And everything was in the correct spot, except 0, 6, and C were a little bit messed up. They were a little bit out of order, right? Well, what we have here is a list of moves that will move just these 3 tiles around. They will not mess up anything else. Well, they will mess up everything else, but they'll fix it. And then when we come back to where we started, these 3 tiles, 0, 6, and C, will be shifted around. And specifically, they'll all move down 1 space. 0 moves to 6, 6 moves down to C moves down and sort of loops back around to where 0 is. All right, so let me just demonstrate this and hope that I don't screw it up. B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1. So far, kind of familiar. Then A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. And now it says F down 1. So this is column F over here. Move that down 1, which of course also moves A down 1 in the process. And then we do, let's see, B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1, and then we move our F back up 1. So what really happened was this was just a clever application of a couple of these moves up here. I believe that's moves 2 and 4. And then we shifted row F or column F down 1. And then we did moves 2 and 4 again, and somehow that correct combination of things affected this particular change, where 0 went down 1 tile, 6 went down 1 tile, and then C moved up 2 tiles. So it basically just cycled these 3 tiles among each other. And so then basically that move in reverse is what he has listed here as cycle top 3 in left column up 1. That will do exactly the opposite thing. 0 will move up 1, 6 will move up 1, and C will move down 2 back to here. So let's see if I can do that successfully. F down 1, B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 right 1, 1 left 1 rather. A up 1, left 1, down 1, left 1. Then we move the F back, and then we do B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. And there we go. So that moved those. There's a similar set of moves here to shift the first 3 either 1 left or 1 right. So that's tiles 0, 1, and 2. So we could do a similar set of moves. Actually, I think it's probably the exact same set of moves, but just sort of flipped over, right? So columns and rows are swapped with each other, but pretty much it's the same idea. To move these 3 either 1 to the left, and then 0 would loop around that way, or 1 to the right, and then 2 would loop around that way. And so these are some moves that you sort of have to use just at the very end of solving the module. Um, and then they help you fix tiny little things that are wrong with it at the very end. So in section 2 of this video, we'll look at how do you actually solve this whole module from front to back, start to finish, using these 6 moves over here. All right, so here we have a completely fresh Clumsy Loopover module. It's the sort of thing that you will see when it starts up. And so the first part of solving this module is actually pretty easy. So I'm going to start this from the bottom right, uh, the bottom and the right of the grid, and then we'll sort of work our way up to the upper left. Again, partially just because my moves over here are set up to deal with the upper left corner, so I want to get everything else in place first. So, like, we need to get the Z in place. Okay, great, easy. Whoops, there's the Z. Now I need to get the Y in place right next to it, so I just move the Y into the appropriate column, slide these 2 down, perfect. You know, all of this initial stuff is pretty straightforward, right, to get the first few in place. This point is now the first part where it gets a little bit interesting, right? Because, you know, if I put the V in place, whoops, if I put the V in place, that's fine. But now getting the U in place is harder because I, you know, can't move down just the U without messing up something else that I've already done, right? This is the clumsy part of the Clumsy Loopover. So this is the general idea that we need to do with things like this, is you sort of get the pieces that you need together. So I moved my U and V together. And then you just need to get them out of the way to move the other stuff back, right? So the U, V, and W are together, but I can only move 2 of them at a time. So my general approach here is I move the U and V, I move them slightly out of the way, so that now I can move the W by itself back into place where it's supposed to be. And then I move the U and V where they're supposed to be, and great, we have the bottom row all done. So that's all very straightforward, and that idea is pretty much the same as the idea of these 6 moves over here, right? You move the thing where you want it to be, then you move it out of the way while you move everything else back, and then put the thing in place. Essentially the same idea all over the place. All right, so now for my second row, I'm going to do these these 2 at a time. So we'll put the S and the T together. Whoops, put the S and T together. Same idea, move the S and the T out of the way so I can get the X and the Y back in place. And now I need the S and the T to be right above the Y and the Z, so we just slide those over. Oops. Move the S and the T just above the Y and Z, and there we go. Those are good. Let's see, QR. So there we go, we got the Q and the R together. Move them out of the way so we can get the VW back down. And then we can do the same thing. Whoops. Okay, so I can't get the QR quite in place just yet. So I get them sort of close, and then move them back over, and then there we go. Right, when the Q and the R were in the top row, they were too close to that U and V, so I just had to get them down a little bit away from that, and then we could fix that. Let's see, we'll put the O right there. Whoops. So now the O and the P are right next to each other, even though it doesn't quite look like it. And then we put the U and V just below them in line. Now we slide the O and the P over just above the U and the V, and there is our first 2 rows on the bottom. Done. All right, now same idea. Whoops, no. Okay. It's so tricky moving back and forth between different instances of this module because sometimes this would move the thing to the left and sometimes the thing to the right, and it just gets confusing to track. But anyway, there we go. We got our M and the N together. Slide the S, T, Y, Z up. Put the M, N just above them. Then we need the G and the H, which, okay, that was very lucky. The G and the H are in exactly the right spot, so we'll just put those right there. Let's see. Now the A is just above the B, which is good, or just below the B, which is good. So we can slide the B down, move that out of the way so we can get the VW back in place. So now the A and the B's are together, and then we can slide the A and B over to there. And now here's where things start to get a little bit tricky, is the 4 and the 5 need to come together. So same idea. We slide the 5 over. What am I doing here? Oh, yes, and then we'll slide this down. So now the G, H, M, and N are lined up with a bunch of stuff that I don't care about, right? So I can safely slide that back to the right without sliding the 5 back to the right, right? So again, I wanted the 5 to move to the left, so I moved the 5 to the left, moved it down, and then put the G, H, M, and N back to the right without messing up what was left, right? Without moving the 5 back to the right, and then I slid the 5 back up. So now same idea. I want to slide the 4 and 5 up next to each other. And this is now maybe a little bit trickier because, okay, let me do this. So we'll slide these two columns down a little bit, put the 5 back into the middle of them, and now the 5 is a little bit closer to where I want it to be. So now I can slide these columns up, which is great. Slide these over, so everything above the PQVW is junk, and then slide everything back down. And now I've got to get the 4, 5, they're together at least, but I've got to slide them over into the AB, right, just above the AB right here. So here's the way I usually do this. I'll slide the AB over, and now I've got those there, but the problem is they're again attached to the GH, where I sort of want things to be... I need the AB separate from the GH so I can sort of move that separately, right? So then what we do is we will slide the 4, 5 AB over, so it's now separate from the GH. Slide these two middle columns up, and if you'll notice that now in rows 2 and 3, I can slide the GH back over safely without messing up anything else, because all the rest of that was just junk. So now we slide this back down, the 4, 5 AB are ready to just slot into place right there. All right. So again, there's a lot of move this over, then shift the whole thing up, then move everything else back, then shift the thing down, and then it'll wind up in the spot where you want it to be. That just takes a lot of practice to kind of get used to exactly how those first few rounds of moves work. And here is now where we get to the point where I actually start using these 6 moves fairly often, right? And maybe you don't have to use them exactly, but the idea is pretty much the same, right? So it's like So let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm now trying to slide this L over into place here because I want to look at row 4, column D, right? Those are sort of the next things that I have to fix as I work my way up to the upper left. So I might do something like this, slide the L over a couple, then move it down out of the way while I slide the GH, M, and N back in place, and then move the L back up. And now the L is pretty close to where I want it to be, right? And then we can do the same thing one more time. Move the L to the right, slide it out of the way while I put GH, M, and N back, and there we go. That one is done. And I think technically what I just did was probably, move number 2, maybe move number 1 or 2, one of these, but just executed in columns B, C, and D, and rows 2, 3, and 4. You know, once you do this move a million times, you sort of get used to it. Let me do this a bit more explicitly right now, just to keep track of this. Like now I'm looking at, I want this K to move down 1 space to be right next to the L, right? So that looks like move number 1 here. I can take the thing in this spot, in C2 on this grid, move it down 1 into C3. So that basically means I want to do move 1, but I want to do it in rows 2, 3, and 4, right? Because this is the 3x3 grid that I want to be working on. So the column parts of the move I'll leave where they are, but the row parts of the move will move down 1, right? So I still need to do 1, right 1, but that's really row 2, right 1, B up 1, then there, and there. And now that slid the K down a little bit and is in exactly the spot that we want it to be. Let's see, same thing. I want to work with this J now. I want to slide this downward. So I just want to do move 1 a couple of times to slide J down. So that'll be 1, right 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. Whoops, not that one. There we go. 1 right 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. So now J is getting closer to where it needs to be. And now, if we do move number 4 here, that'll move this J down, well, move number 4 in this 3x3 grid, right? That'll move J downward at an angle here, as shown in this picture, right, from there to there. And so, let's see, I need to do move 4, but slid down 1. So we'll do A up 1, now row 2 left 1, A down 1, row 2 right 1, and there is J exactly where it needs to be. So let's see now, while I'm working on this row, let's get I in place. So that means I want to do move 3 for a second. So move 3 is 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 right 1, A down 1, and then we'll do that again. Now, I is almost where it needs to be, but not quite. So I needed to swap places with the 3. And so you'll notice, so far I've been sort of doing the shifted version of these things, right? It's like, do this move, but do it not in this 3x3 grid, but do it all shifted down 1 row so that it messes with these. Now I'm going to do it the other way, because what I'm looking for is I want this I and this 3 to swap places. So if you'll notice, if I just do this, now the I and the 3 are in spots A2 and A3, which at move number 6, those are 2 things that I know how to swap, right? I can now do move 6, that will swap the I and the 3 with each other and do some stuff over here that I don't care about, but then the I can just slide right back down into place. So let's do move 6 now, B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, and then A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. So now notice the I and the 3 swap places, and then I can just push this back down, and now these bottom 3 rows are correct, the right-hand 2 columns are correct. Whew, we're getting there. Let's see, I need to get the F over into place next. So let's just do move 1 a bunch of times. Nope, that wasn't right. What did I just do? Oh no, I hope I can fix this. Yes, okay, there we go. 1 right 1, B up 1, 1 left 1, B down 1. Again, I looked at the B and I just pressed the thing in column B, but I really wanted to press the thing in C to move things, columns B and C. Anyway, it's called a Clumsy Loopover for a reason. Okay, so there's the F where it needs to be. Now I need to start doing move number 1, but shifted right 1, right? Because now I want these 7 things to be rotating among each other. So let me just do this. 1 right 1, C up 1, bam, bam. And then we just do that 3 times in a row. And, you know, you really start to get used to these things. Let's see, what do I need now? I need 9 to swap places with 0. And I also need to get the 3 in place here. So, you know what? Let's just do a similar thing to what I did before. So let me slide the 9 down and over. Right, so I've got to remember, I'm later going to have to fix this by moving the ABGH back to the right and the WXQR back up. But before I do that, I wanted the 9 and the 0 to swap places, right? So now I do this move 6 again, which is going to swap the C and the 7 and the 9 and the 0, right, as shown in the picture right here. It's going to swap those 4 among each other. But if I do that move 6, then slide everything back, the 9 should be where it's supposed to be. So B up 1, 1 right 1, B down 1, 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1. All right, so now we were successful. The 9 and the 0 swapped places. I put ABGH back. I put all of these back, and now the F and the 9 are where they're supposed to be. So now we just need to do the same thing again with this 3. Let me do, I guess, move number 3 to move it around in the circle through C, 0, and 1 up to here. So move 3 is left, up, right, down, left, up, right, down, left, up, right, down. And so now we successfully moved the 3 sort of around in the loop. Again, all I need to do is make it swap places with D. And so we move the 3 and the D into the places that will be swapped by move number 6, right? Rows, spots B3 and C3 are swapped by move 6. So then we do up 1, right 1, down 1, left 1, and then up 1, left 1, down 1, right 1. So now D and 3 have swapped places. Now I just need to fix what I did before, right? So I slide the ABGH back into place, the QRWX back in place, and now 3, 9, and F are where they're supposed to be. All right, we're most of the way done. Now we just need to get the rest of this bit of the grid in place, just these 3x3. So one of the problems with these moves that we have is that it's really hard to, none of them move this thing that's in B2, so I need to get E out of the way, right? So I need to move that somehow. So once again, let me move E down one place into one of these spots where E and 8 will now switch if I do move number 6. So we're doing a lot of move number 6. That's all right. It's a very good move. And there we go. E is now where it's supposed to be. And now, actually, this is really nice because I have C, D, and E sort of in a line, so I can just move them all at once, and they'll all sort of rotate down toward where I want them to be, which is in row 3. So if I do move 1, I will get C, D, and E where they're supposed to be. And it would almost work now if you'll notice move number 4, right? Move number 4 there. We'll move these 7 things in a line. So it would slide the D down to the 6, and the C would follow, and then if we did it again, it would slide the D over, and the C would follow. Unfortunately, they're going to be slightly out of order there, but I can just swap those in a second. So let's just do move number 4 a couple of times. A up 1, 1 left 1, A down 1, 1 right 1, and then again. And so notice C, D, and E sort of rotated their way downward to here. The only problem is they're in the wrong order, but they are conveniently in a spot where if I did move number 5 right now, they would swap. Right? Those are 2 of the things that swap in move number 5. Unfortunately, move number 5 would also mess with E and 0. It would also change those, which I don't want to do. So, oh man, how fancy do I want to get? You know what? I want to get real fancy. Do I want to get real fancy? Yeah, sure. So E and 0, if I move this down right here, right, then I could swap C and D and then 0 and 2. You know what? I'm not going to get fancy. This is fine. If I just slide this down 1, I can swap C and D, and then I swap 0 and 2, which doesn't bother me at all because they're not in the right place anyway, but I will get C and D in the correct spot. So now we do move 5. And then 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 right 1, A down 1. And there we go. C and D swapped places. Some stuff happened with 0 and 2 that we don't care about, and now these 3 are correct. All right. So now it gets exciting because now I have just these 6 things that I need to move around. And this is where we sometimes have to be a little bit clever with our various moves that we have. These moves are enough to get everything done that we need to do, but sometimes it's trickier than others. So, what do I want to do here? I would really like to maybe get just this second row in place. I'm trying to think about if there's a way I can get that done without messing things up too badly. Okay, yes, so let's do it this way. This will be fine. So I need to swap this 7 with this 2, basically, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slide this down 1, these down 1, and then these to the right. All right. So again, later I'm going to have to move these back to the left and everything back up to where it's supposed to be. But now, notice if I do move 5, that will swap 6 and 8 with each other. That will swap 7 and 2 with each other. And then 6, 8, and 7 will all be in a row with each other somehow. So let's do move 5. Bam, bam, bam. And then 1 left 1, A up 1, 1 right 1, A down 1. And now we undo the stuff we did before. I put the A4, 5B back where they're supposed to be. I put these back where they're supposed to be. And so now notice the 8, 6, and 7 are in exactly the right row at least, but they're in the wrong order. All right, so now I could maybe get tricky with moves 5 and 6 to do these right, but this is where I'm now going to fall back on my more complicated moves over here. So, for example, this move, my third complicated move, will shift the first three things left one. So if I put the 6, 7, and 8 in the first three slots in the first row, then that will move 6, 7, and 8 left one. Well, 6 will go left one, 7 will go left one, and 8 will loop back over there. So now I'm just going to do this whole complicated thing right here. So 6 goes right one, 2 left one, a down one, 2 right one, a up one. 1 left one, a up one, 1 right one, a down one. And you want to be really careful with these because if you get lost in the middle of this, at least I'm in deep trouble. So then go 6 left one, 2 left one, a down one, 2 right one, a up one, 1 left one, a up one, 1 right one, a down one. And now, okay, we did it. The 6, 7, and 8 swapped into the order where they were supposed to be. The 0, 1, and 2 are still messed up, unfortunately, but we can fix that. Everything else is in the exact right spot. So now we just need the 2 to slide to the right, the 1 to slide to the right, and then the 0 to jump back over there, which is exactly this last move. Shift the first three 1 to the right. So if I do these moves successfully, that should solve the puzzle for us. So 2 left 1, a down 1, 2 right 1, a up 1, 1 left 1, a up 1, 1 right 1, a down 1. And now 6 right 1, 2 left, a down, 2 right, a up, 1 left, a up, 1 right, a down. And now everything is in the right spot except these top and bottom rows. And so if we just do the last bit of this move, this 6th left one, that will solve the puzzle for us. So this is a very tricky module. It takes a lot of practice with these various moves to sort of see how to use them in the right way to slide everything around where you want it to go. But hopefully this has shed some light on that whole process. I'm never going to solve this module without just having these things staring me in the face, all of these moves, because they're hard to memorize. But, you know, if you're a Rubik's Cube solver or a speed cuber or whatever, this is the sort of thing that you're used to knowing, like, oh, this is just the weird move that does this thing that I needed to do. So, at any rate, hopefully these will all help you solve this module, and we'll see you back here next time.